Hello everybody, welcome back to MCReviews, Monstercat 004 Identity, and this is episode 2, where we're going to be looking at the Twothirds remix of The Destroyer, featuring Triphonic by Muzzy. And so, something interesting about this track is that it says it's featuring Triphonic, when in reality, Triphonic is a rock-influenced, down-tempo, trip-hop kind of duo who almost exclusively make instrumental music. So it seems really strange to accredit the vocals of this track to an instrumental duo. It turns out that this track's vocals are actually sampled from another Triphonic track called Broken, which features an unnamed vocalist. So in reality, this track is featuring an unnamed vocalist and not Triphonic. On that note, if you like chill type stuff, do yourself a favor and check out Triphonic. Their music is really, really beautiful. So, back to The Destroyer. Twothirds is an artist which I really, really like. Monstercat used to have a really strong lineup of drum and bass artists back in the day. Muzzy, Twothirds, Buster, Faint, Ramses B, all being absolutely amazing. This isn't so much the case today. The only one of those artists who's stayed good as a D&B producer would have to be Muzzy. But in all of those massive artists, I used to find myself forgetting about and seriously underrating Twothirds for a long time, and I didn't really realize how truly amazing he was as an artist. That has changed recently though, with the discovery of songs like Glimmer, Lost, and even Daydreamer, which has come in contest for my favorite song on the entire label. And so I can now see how truly amazing he is as an artist. I still wouldn't rate him as highly as I would Faint, Buster, or Muzzy, but I love him nonetheless. One of the greatest things that Twothirds did as an artist was that from the very start of his career on Monstercat, he was a great producer. Unlike most artists, he was producing music of the quality that you would hear today all the way back in 2011. And considering that Lost from album 2 is better than most of the stuff on the damn Rocket League album, that's pretty impressive. Speaking of him being good even in his early tracks, let's get into today's review of Twothirds' remix of The Destroyer. In a refreshing change from the last track, Twothirds' take on The Destroyer takes no time slowly ambling around and has no minute-long build-up of elements, instead getting straight into the intro. From the first second of the track, the vocals begin and are accompanied by nice backing melodies that give a quiet and lonely, yet not quite sad mood with lots of reverb. These melodies remind me quite a lot of the things you would hear in Faint's later work. And one of the track's biggest surprises to me is that the vocals, which Twothirds added into the remix, is actually pretty good. They aren't the best thing I've ever heard on Monstercat, but they are easily the best vocals that have been in a song so far, and I quite enjoy them, which is a rare thing for me to say, especially about a song from 2011. The vocals, I would argue, are better than most of the vocalists we hear today on Monstercat. There is heavier reverb applied to her voice, which adds to the somewhat lonely feel that this song achieves, and her voice is just really nice, and gives off a similar vibe to some of Vila's better work. As well as that, the lyrics are also a lot more unique than the topics of parties or alcohol or heartbreak that we're so used to hearing on Monstercat today. So the first change in the song comes in at around 20 seconds into the track, where a very light and fast drum and bass beat comes in. It's focused predominantly on the higher samples like hats and snares, and works really well as a background beat, as it doesn't take over the track and just adds a nice level of pace to the already good intro. The build-up starts with a few generic background rises being added, which are nothing special, but are small enough to ignore. Another aspect of the build-up is the really fast and nice drums that pitch up and eventually do a drum roll to signify the beginning of the drop. And the other aspect of the build-up, and to what me makes the build-up special, is the way which the vocals are implemented into the part of the song. As the build-up gets more and more intense towards the climax, so do the vocals, and in a really natural and beautiful way, which makes the build-up flow in a way that very few songs can do, which is made even more impressive considering that these vocals weren't even originally made for this song. So before I get into the drop of the song, I'll just say I don't think I can praise this intro section enough. It's short, coming in at only 43 seconds until the drop, and it sets a beautiful tone for the rest of the track. The vocals are really well done and just add to the atmosphere of the track. The beats are nice and don't take over the intro, and the build-up is quiet and understated enough to where it doesn't feel jarring but instead natural, and it doesn't take you out of the mood that the track is set. Once the build-up finishes, there is a really well done drum roll, which signifies the beginning of the drop. And damn, if you thought I was being positive earlier, just you wait. So from the get-go, this drop is just amazing. The first thing you'll hear is the incredibly deep and dark bass, which pretty much takes over the track. It's just such a menacing and badass sound, and while its chord progression is simple, it's really nice and carries the track very well. It is accompanied by a really well done drum and bass beat. For the most part, it's just like your generic 4-beat loop, but it's full of little additions and modifications to that formula which sound amazing and keep it really interesting. Another element of the drop is some atmospheric background melodies that sound like heavily echoed and distorted vocals, which do a great job of adding a lonely feel to the drop and fill up the background of the song. These three elements, the bass, the beat, and the backing melodies, do a great job of carrying the song and are about all you hear for the first 20 or so seconds of the drop. After those 20 wonderful seconds, a small addition is made to the drop to keep it interesting. Some fast and quick high-pitched little melodies are layered over these three elements, and while this isn't the most massive change in the world, the melody is really complex and adds some depth to the high end of the track. After 20 seconds of this, there is yet another change. The recently added melodies are given a lot more reverb and are lowered in pitch, making them sound really cool. But the lonely background melodies are removed, leaving the track seeming quite a bit more empty, as those melodies really filled up the background of the track. This bit is good in some ways and bad in others. On the plus side, it allows the track to focus on the beat and the other melodies, but most of all the bass. Unfortunately, this part lacks quite a bit of the atmosphere or emotion that was present up until this point, and as such, this is probably the only part of the drop that I don't absolutely love. This section also adds a few almost video game-like bass notes that pop in and out every so often, adding an interesting flair. And so this slightly worse part of the drop goes on for another 40 or so seconds, after which the drop comes to an end. This part of the drop lasted a little too long for my taste and would probably have been better if it were only 20 seconds instead of 40. But even with that being said, this drop is amazing. The beats, basses, and melodies present here all work amazingly and give a dark and lonely mood. The track is simultaneously chill and heavy, as well as being fast beat-wise and slow bass-wise, leading to a really cool and unique sounding drop, which I absolutely adore. The drop comes to an abrupt ending, going straight into a midsection. The vocals come straight back in alongside a very dreamy, slow backing pad, which adds a semi-emotional, almost strings-like element to the background. Alongside this, some minor melodies are present, which are nice and quiet. This very simple but nice midsection doesn't last too long, which is good, as I imagine it would get boring quite quickly, and it only lasts around 30 seconds before the build-up comes in. But it does do a good job of calming the song down and having a nice atmospheric chill moment before the song begins to ramp back up. The second build-up begins at around 30 seconds into the midsection and isn't quite as good as the first, as it has much more apparent and obvious rises, which I'm not a big fan of, and the vocals that made the first build-up really cool are nowhere to be found in this one. The build-up's drums are nothing to write home about either, they're just your standard pitch rising beats. While the build-up is by no means terrible, it's nowhere near as good and is far more generic than the first, but it's pretty inoffensive and it gets the job done well enough. The second drop starts very similar to the first. The first 40 seconds of the drop are identical to the second part of the first drop, which was where the fast and complex melody was added. And while it is a pity that this section of the drop was repeated from the first drop, it still isn't a massive deal, as what it is repeating is still really damn good. The drop begins to change at the 40-second mark, which was at the same time where the first drop became quite empty, and this drop does the same thing. But there are two major differences, the first of which is that the vocals get layered back over the instrumentals and end up working really well. The vocals are used quite sparingly here, and don't take over the track, just adding to it here and there, which is really nice. The other addition to the drop is the new slow and quite simple melody. It's quite dreamy and nice. It reminds me a lot of the sorts of melodies you would hear in Glimmer, which is another amazing Twothirds song. This new melody is great, and kind of picks up where the background melody that was removed left off. So this drop, while not quite as amazing as the first, is still good, and the second half with the new melody and vocals was really good. While it is a pity that this drop did reuse parts from the first, like I said, what it repeats is so good that I'm not all that bothered. The song comes to an end with pretty much everything being stripped from the drop except for the beat and a few minor melodies, with those elements fading out over the course of 30 or so seconds. This ending is really nothing special, and while the beat is great, the ending doesn't do anything particularly thrilling and would have to be the worst part of the song. But it's not that bad, and I'm not too bothered, as very few songs have particularly great endings anyway. So that was the Twothirds remix of The Destroyer by Muzzy, and damn, that was a long review. Thank you for sitting through all of it. It was just so good I had to go into detail to explain all the little things that I love about this track. This track is just another example of how amazing Twothirds was as an artist. The fact that he turned Muzzy's heavy 2010 dubstep track into a beautiful, dark, atmospheric, and complex drum and bass track is a testament to how great he is. So I liked almost everything about this track. The positives could go on and on. The intro nails the atmosphere with chilled beats, beautiful melodies, and really well done vocals that complement the song wonderfully. The build-up was one of the best I've talked about yet, with the unique way it incorporated vocals. The drop was both heavy and chill, nailing a dark and foreboding yet beautiful tone. Its beats are complex and layered, its basses hit hard and gave the track its darkness, and the background melodies add the atmosphere and the beauty that really sets the song apart. The mid-section, while not blowing the doors off, was still really well done and served nicely to calm down the song for a brief period. The two drops are relatively varied, and the implementation of new melodies and vocals in the second drop worked out wonderfully. The few things that bothered me in this track were that the second half of the first drop did seem a bit empty, and the second build-up was pretty average, and the ending did nothing special, but those few issues are minor and pale in comparison to the song's positives. So yeah, I absolutely love this song. It's so refreshing to review a song that feels modern and well produced. If this track came out today on Monstercat, the only reason that it would seem out of place would be because it's actually good. This, alongside Cloak and Dagger, Insomnia, Lost, and maybe Division, are pretty much the only tracks that I would go out of my way to listen to today and not just skip instantly. While the song does have a few flaws, they're so insignificant when compared to the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is so damn good that it would be a crime to rate the Two-Thirds remix of The Destroyer by Muzzy anything lower than an 8 out of 10. And considering that I know Two-Thirds has music that is even better than this in the coming albums, he is one of the artists that I'm most excited to talk about. That is until Elvitha happened. So let me know in the comments how you felt about this track. Do you love it too, or have I completely overrated it? No matter what you want to say, I want to hear it, as communication between me and you guys is what this channel is all about. The next review you're going to be expecting from me in the next couple of days is my review of Run Away From Me, the debut track from DotEXE. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.